Good evening, everyone. My name is Tommy Green, former editor of the Mobile Beacon in Mobile, Alabama, where Ms. Claretta Blackman was the CEO. I started working for the Beacon in 2005. I posted articles on Facebook. The Beacon is the first black newspaper established in Alabama in 1943. In 2019, the Beacon closed. Ms. Blackman moved to Montgomery with her daughter Marina, and a short time later she became ill and she was funeralized on February 8th of this year. In 2017, I saw an article in the Pew Research Center that showed that black voters' participation dropped from 2012 to 2016 by 7% in 3 states in the Midwest: Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Those are the 3 states that Trump won to become president. So I came up with the conclusion that I had to contact individuals in the community with expertise, and I would record their speech and post them to Facebook and YouTube. Okay, that's it. Y'all go ahead now.
So look at how the camera is. You want me to keep the camera, keep it running?
You can.
Okay. You see how the camera isn't, it's like, I feel like.
Kind of sideways?
Yes.
Yeah, you can see it. So you need to just
So you might
roll out
wanna-
that peak, okay. Okay.
So I don't know if you want to redo your part?
No, not really.
Okay.
Do you edit it, Tommy?
Yeah, you gotta be looking at it, okay? Like, both of you on, okay?
Hello, I'm Beverly Cooper of Stand Up Mobile, one of the co-founders, and I'm here with Shalila Dowdy. Shalila is our president of Stand Up Mobile, and she's also an intern with the
Southern Coalition for Social Justice, based out of the Raleigh, North Carolina area, where I'm assigned to do redistricting work in the lower half of Alabama.
Right. We were pleased with the opportunity to speak with Mr. Green today about why it is that individuals should vote. And I think the most important thing that I thought about was to certainly make sure that we had a young person here. And that's what Shalila actually represents. So one of the things that Shalila, I wanted to just get some comments from you about when you think about voting as a young person, what's most significant for you?
When I think about voting, the most significant thing to me is the candidates that are running.
Okay.
And what they stand for, their background, what they've done thus far, and what they hope to do if they are elected to the position.
Right. And I can understand that. I think when we look at our most recent last election was for city council, we had quite a few people running in that field. And when they spoke to you about what was significant for them, one of the biggest things is that we all asked at the end of every presentation we did is that people turn out. There's a misconception that your vote doesn't matter, but we know it matters. It matters to help cut down the field, because if you've got 10 people running for one position,
Right.
you've got to be able to actually reduce that. So
Right.
don't think that your vote doesn't matter. One vote can what?
Go a long way, and it can be the deciding factor in who wins or loses.
Right. Think of it as how often you might have participated in a coin toss. Many of you might play sports, and on the field, what's the first thing they do? Decide who receives first, or they toss a coin, and it's only 2 sides to a coin.
Right.
So really, that's one of the most significant things about voting.
And I think voting is very important, because if it was not, there would not be so many state legislations across the country trying to pass voting laws that makes voting harder, specifically in the urban areas where the minorities are.
Exactly. We're hearing a lot about voter suppression.
Right.
And
we call it the new Jim Crow.
The new Jim Crow. And you know what? You might even want to look that up. Google is great. Check it out and see what Jim Crow really stands for. And you even look up the word suppression. Think about losing your right. Your social agenda might be to make sure that there's an opportunity for children in your neighborhood or your family members to have a park to go to and to be safe in that park. Do you realize that the person who you vote for actually controls what the budget could be that would determine whether there's a park in your neighborhood, whether your streets are clean, whether there are lights in your neighborhood, exactly where you can maybe drive your car and what are all the rules about driving your car. So absolutely.
Right.
Jim Crow, my goodness.
And those individuals who are elected officials, they play a role in many things that impact us. A lot of people say, well, I don't do politics. Well, my statement to that is, well, politics does you, and everything that we do. And just going throughout our daily lives, politics are impacting that. You know, we just came out of the pandemic,
Yes.
and a lot of people were laid off. Some people weren't able to work. Some people were furloughed and whatnot. And elected officials had to pass legislation that would decide whether or not American citizens would be helped.
Exactly.
And so something such as the stimulus checks that some of our citizens in our country received, they received that help basically because certain elected officials voted on behalf of the citizens that they represent. Now, not all elected officials saw fit to vote on behalf of the bills that would assist the Americans. And so I say, this is when who you vote for, and this is why voting is important when it comes down to things like this. Who will help the American people? Who are running because they want to be the representation and the voice of the people, and then who's running for themselves and because they consider it to be a position of power.
Yes.
And that's the issue, relating what these elected officials are doing back to the everyday person. So when I talk to people, I'm like, you were able to benefit from that assistance that you received, right? And I let them know, you know, the person that represents us in Congress necessarily didn't think that you deserved that assistance.
Yeah.
And to look at the voting records of these people, because people may say, oh, well, I don't know, or they may be ignorant to the fact of what's going on. But like you said, there's Google. A lot of us have smartphones. If you don't have one, you know someone with one. So you're able to go to the library or use your phone to figure out what their voting history has been, because their voting history and what they stand for and what they support, it speaks a lot on their values and what they have been doing and will possibly do in those seats that they're in.
We think it's important that you have these kinds of conversations. There's so much that we talk about. We just, the city of Mobile got into Mardi Gras this year because he hadn't had it in a couple of years, and people haven't stopped talking about having Mardi Gras back. Well, one of the things that we think is important is voting. Think about your civic responsibility. When you go and cast that vote, the first time you do it, you're going to walk out and feel really good about the fact that you did participate in that. So your desire to know what you want in your community and for your family. I like the fact that Shalila brought up the stimulus checks that we got this past year. Those individuals that didn't vote for it, they didn't send their check back, okay? They decided they wanted to use those funds because they needed them for their family, for a variety of things that there were needs for, and that we really had taken away from us during the time that we had to actually endure the process and getting through the pandemic. It's gone now, and we're back to some level of safety for a while, but there still are some requirements. I wear my mask in most instances, and the idea that that became such an issue for certain individuals, you think about your personal safety and the safety for you and your families, and these are the kinds of decisions that you want to have the opportunity to make, and it depends on who it is that you vote for. Shalila, I want to ask you a quick question regarding thinking about our history. We just went through what I think is the 57th anniversary of Bloody Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who have heard the term Bloody Sunday but aren't sure exactly what that is, tell us a little bit about it, because I know you participated in it.
So Bloody Sunday it happened, I think in
57 years ago. What does that, where does that take us to?
1957
57 from 22 take us to, yes.
I think it was 65.
It was 1965.
And ironically, that is when the Voting Rights Act was signed. So I think it was 1965. We'll go with that. But
It was.
Alabama is a state that leads the way in a lot. You know, we don't always have the best representation and everything, but when it comes to the civil rights movement, I say that we led the way in that when it comes to what happened in Birmingham, Montgomery, and so Selma. So in Selma, I sometimes just say MLK and the crew, because it really wasn't just MLK. It was a lot of other organizers. And the fun fact about that was that they were young. MLK and a lot of them, they were young. So they wanted to simply register to vote. In order to start that process, they wanted to bring awareness to the issues, and their goal was to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge, which is named after KKK Grand Dragon. I was just reminded of that today reading. But they wanted to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge, which is located in Selma, Alabama, and walk roughly a little over 50 miles to the state capital of Montgomery, Alabama, to simply register to vote. it wasn't even just to vote, it was to register to vote. And it was on a Sunday. And they crossed the bridge, or they attempted to cross the bridge, and Alabama state troopers proceeded to assault them and beat them just because they wanted to cross the bridge. And so some of the figures that that incident occurred to was our former Congressman John Lewis, he's from Troy, Alabama, but he was a congressman in the Atlanta, Georgia area. And then another pioneer was Amelia Boynton. And yeah, they simply just wanted to cross the bridge. And so what's crazy is that Bloody Sunday was also, from what I'm tracking, televised. And so the country saw that assault on citizens from Alabama who simply wanted to register to vote. And I like to say that not voting as a resident of Alabama is just disrespectful to those who came before us in this state.
Exactly.
Nowadays, you can register someone to vote or assist them with registering to vote literally from your phone. There is the Vote for Alabama app. And so knowing that I assisted someone last night with registering to vote, and then reflecting on the fact that our ancestors literally just wanted to cross a bridge to walk 50 miles, yet, they received so much pushback. And it was because back then, a certain demographic knew the power of the vote. And they knew if African Americans were able to become knowledgeable and were able to exercise their right to vote, then they would have the ability to bring some change about in our state and in our nation. And now here we are, 57 years later, and our state is trying to pass legislation. It passed our House and now it's in the Senate that would hinder organizations such as our Stand Up Mobile that does work centered around voting rights. And you have Georgia with Senate Bill 202 that decreases drop boxes in urban areas, that makes it illegal to give someone water who's in line. I know people in Georgia that stood in line for 8 hours in the last presidential election just to vote. And so there's power in your vote. And if it wasn't important, if there was no value, there would not be so much focus placed on making it harder to vote. And so every year they have a Bridge Jubilee in the Selma area where they reflect on the work that's done and the work that still needs to be done. And I know in previous years and this year they did a reenactment march this year from Selma to Montgomery, and they walked about 10 miles a day, and that was following the bridge crossing that was on the Sunday, I think it was March 7th. And so I participated in day 3 of the walk along the route. I've driven the road from Selma to Montgomery, but I never really thought, I'll walk this.
To make the walk, yeah.
But it was fun being able to, we sung some of the civil rights songs that those before us sung, and then we also had a DJ with modern music, and just made it a fun thing. But that walk is being done, or it was being done, to highlight, hey, 57 years and we're still here and we're still in the fight and we still have issues in our state legislatures across the country.
I think the history, the significance of 57 years ago, what people did for us, and it really is, each time you vote, think about the next generation. The concern here is to make sure that we don't do anything, and that we look for every opportunity to make sure that all people have an opportunity to register, to vote, and if there's anyone who needs to actually restore their rights, you need to get an understanding of that. Many of you might have had situations in your lifetime where you might have lost your right to vote. You need to understand that there are ways to be able to clean that record up, and as time passes, it provides opportunities for you to be able to register and become a voting citizen. I think that the things that Shalila just talked about, while there might have been an element of fun with respect to reenacting the march, that was basically a wonderful teaching point for a number of individuals who participated. There was no fun 57 years ago, and we need to be sure that we don't do anything to allow that kind of situation to come back again. You need to know that Stand Up Mobile was actually co-founded with Amelia Bacon, with me, along with our concern about what happened in Washington, D.C. on January the 6th, 2021. When you look at that situation with respect to individuals who call themselves patriots and a variety of other names that decided that they wanted to overturn the election, we decided that we needed to create an organization and be able to pull our citizens together to make sure that those things don't happen. we were looking at all of democracy. The more we got into having these conversations and also working in our communities, we realized how important it is for the African American community. We're excited about it. We know that history can repeat itself, so don't consider one and done.
Right.
We know that there's more work.
Yeah, there's never really a year off when it comes to elections. You know, we were able to, as a nation, elect Joe Biden to the presidency in 2020. 2021, there were municipal elections across the country, St. Louis, New York, here in our hometown in Mobile, Birmingham, and then now this year, midterms. So you have governors on the ballot. For us, one of our state senators, or one of our U.S. senators is up. Our congressional representatives, our state senators, our state representatives, DA, sheriff, and numerous amounts of judges positions. So there really is no year off. You should always be thinking, when is the next election?
So go vote, right?
Go vote. It's as simple as that.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
Thank
This
you.
was really wonderful. We really appreciate it.
That's it.